Hello and welcome to FinextraTV. I'm Alex Lippic, and you join us at this Diebold Nixdorf Intersect 2026 event here in Cannes. And very kindly joining me in our studio today is Luigi Migliaccio of Poste Italiane. And we're going to be discussing the bank postal service. Luigi, what a pleasure to see you here today. What a great event to be a part of.
My pleasure as well.
Great to see you. So I'm going to start off by asking, how has the bank-postal relationship evolved over recent time, especially in rural areas? Let's start there, Luigi.
So let's say that, what we have assisted in the last years, especially in the last 10 years, but the phenomenon started already 20 years ago, is that the bank, in order to cut costs, they had to start to shrink their presence on the territory, especially in the rural municipalities, in the rural areas. On the other side, the postal service had to keep these branches, had to keep these post offices. And this, at the beginning, looked like an issue, no? Because you have to keep this kind of cost live, while the banking, your competitor were shrinking, reducing their costs, being more effective. And this was a little bit scaring at the beginning. But then, by diversifying your offering, by monitoring what's happening, you realize that, in fact, the local presence, even in the rural area, was productive. And in fact, what's happening nowadays is that most of the banks have realized that, and they are, let's say, coming back. There are, in certain parts of Europe, and certainly in Italy, some merchant acquisition. With one of the ambition of this merchant acquisition is to acquire the network of the other bank in order to have more reach to the country. And this is something that is happening also through another move that the banking are doing. The banking have started to engage agents. So you don't have a physical presence, you don't have a post office or a bank branch, but you have people that goes and reach out the customer in the rural areas of the country. Because with the complexity of the offering, that is very, very complex, is getting more complex every single day, just as we discussed, the pace this day is incredibly fast. Sometimes the customer needs to talk with someone, to talk with an expert, to get advice. It's true that you can do most of the things through digital app and and web services and these kind of things. But sometimes you need to challenge and be challenged by another person that is an expert, and you together decide what is the best for you.
You've spoken about the demographics in these rural areas and the current situation there. Would you say there's still a strong demand for physical banks in smaller towns, for example?
When you have the post office or a bank branch in a rural area where sometimes it's not sustainable by itself, But so what the postal services are doing is that they are leveraging these physical offices to offer a wider portfolio of services. So you go beyond financial services, then you go to insurance that is even more complex and sometimes need to be tailored to the need and the age of the person that is in front of you. And you also, for example, most of the operators use it also as a sort of logger to give parcel and get parcel, and also other products like, for example, some companies are entering the telecommunication sector, or they are entering the utilities sector. So when you have a bigger portfolio, then the sustainability comes back.
Really interesting insight. You touched on some of this already. How do banks and fintechs and the postal service all work together as one? How do they find that magic formula, so to speak?
Yeah. So I believe that each of them has a main customer segment that is different from the other. No? So the fintech, of course, their main customer base are people that are really, very good at using the digital ecosystem. So it can be the computer, can be the web, can be the app on your mobile phone, on your smartphone, etc., etc. Then the banks have all of them, and also the postal services are trying to compete on all the sector. What is different is that fintech is probably not the best suited to reach the people that are not fully digitalized. The banks with their branches and the postal company that have post offices spread around the territory are the ones that are best positioned to serve this kind of customer. No? And in this customer needs to be helped. Just to give you an example, postal services as the banks, they have all understood that they need to compete in the digital space. They need to have the best app. They need to have the best, web solution or whatever. But it's not enough to cover the full of the population, all the segments of the customer base. And for some of them, you still need a physical presence, a human touch. And this is something that the fintech probably will never have, and the banks and the postal services on the other side are leveraging.
It's about making sure all the demographics are cared for properly.
Exactly.
Really interesting conversation. I just want to thank you so much for your time, Luigi. It's been great chatting to you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.